Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping straight into some classical sources on knowledge, the KİTâBU'L İLM. We're not talking history or science in the usual sense, but something, well, more fundamental. We're looking at intelligence, purpose, how humans are measured. Specifically, we're focusing on this concept called ok. You might translate it as intellect or reason, but honestly, that barely scratches the surface. For these authors, ok it's the core metric, spiritually, and for this world too. It's how people are ultimately judged. So our mission is to figure out why it's placed so incredibly high.
It really is the foundational metric, isn't it? And that's what's so, well, striking. This isn't just about saying intelligence is good. These texts position Okul as the source you absolutely need for any useful knowledge, which they call ilm. And crucially, it's the definitive basis for divine judgment, reward, punishment. It all comes back to way above, physical actions or how rich or respected you are.
Okay, right. So let's unpack that connection first. Akl and ilm. Because you can't really get one without the other, based on these sources. They use some really vivid analogies. They basically say akl is the absolute foundation, the source, menba, of ilm. So picture this. Akl is the tree, ilm is the fruit it produces.
Right.
Or akl is the sun, and ilm is the light that comes from it.
Good.
And maybe the most important one. Akl is the eye, the actual organ of sight, dide, while ilm is the act of seeing, rüyet. So the quality of your eye dictates what you actually see.
Exactly. And if you accept that setup, the implication hits you straight away. The value of knowledge, shiris I ilm, it only exists because of the intellect that perceived it or generated it. The intellect, akul, that's the tool for looking into evidence, for figuring out proofs. It pushes us towards what's true. Without a sound intellect, well, knowledge is either out of reach or doesn't really mean anything.
And this isn't just some abstract philosophical point. They make it very clear this is about real-life outcomes. The sources are really explicit. A developed akal is the vessel, the means to happiness, not just here and now, but in the hereafter too. Sari dunya vu ahiret. It's like the essential GPS for both realities.
It's considered so fundamental that its superiority is just recognized.
Yeah.
Naturally. There's this curious detail in the text about strength versus brains.
Yeah.
They point out that even big, powerful animals, bahim, they tend to defer to humans.
Why is that?
Well, it's not because we're physically stronger, obviously. We're often not. It's because the animal, in some way, recognizes the human's unique capacity for, thinking, for reason, for idrakio, which can even mean a capacity for strategy or, let's be honest, trickery, intellect.
That's fascinating. So even the animal kingdom kind of gets that brain beats brawn.
Seems so. And that idea translates directly into human society and status. Think about why an elder, a kabiru sin, or a sheikh is respected in their community. According to these sources, that respect comes directly from their increased experience, their takribs, and that experience. It's presented explicitly as the fruit of their alcohol gathered over a lifetime. They're valued for that processed wisdom, that developed intellect, not how physically fit they are or how much money they have.
Okay, now this is where akal seems to go beyond just human psychology and starts touching on the divine, on cosmology. You said ilm, knowledge is the light. The sources connect this directly to God being light. They interpret Qur'anic verses, like God being the light of the heavens and earth.
Yes, exactly. From Surah An-Nur.
And then the text just states it plainly. Knowledge, ilm, is called nur, light and ignorance, jal, is called zulmit, darkness, like in Al-Baqarah 257.
And if knowledge is light, and akal is the source of that light, then you have to ask, where did akal itself come from? And this is where the material delivers what I think is just the most potent claim, historically speaking. Akal, intellect, was the very first thing God created. Akal yaratıp hak etisi mahuk aktur. Before anything else existed.
Whoa, hold on. The first creation, not light, not water, not the throne, but intellect. What does that even mean? What was its purpose right at the start? That elevates it way beyond just a human trait.
Precisely. That's the point. And right after creating it, God gave akal this definitive command. It's recorded as, I will take with you and give with you and reward with you and punish with you.
Okay, unpack that. With you, meaning using akal as the standard.
Exactly. Think about how huge that is. It establishes the intellect, akal, as the single ultimate basis for divine justice, for accountability, reward, punishment. It's the metric God uses for the final reckoning.
So if judgment actually hinges on akal, then our whole modern idea of who's intelligent, high IQ, fancy degrees, successful career, that gets completely turned on its head, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The definition of the truly intelligent person, the akal, becomes someone entirely different. It's the one who obeys God, period. Doesn't matter if they're poor or humble or maybe not very eloquent or not conventionally attractive. Their obedience is the proof of their akal actually working.
That sounds incredibly challenging, especially for people who achieve a lot in worldly terms but maybe aren't focused on piety. Are these sources basically saying that kind of worldly intelligence is irrelevant?
They go way beyond irrelevant. It's actually quite severe. The source quotes a hadith, a saying attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, which emphasizes this failure. It states that those who disobey God are considered, in God's sight, less intelligent than pigs and apes. Yeah. Regardless of how good-looking or respected or, clever they might seem in this world, it's a total inversion of how we usually measure success or intelligence. Worldly success means nothing if your akal fails in its primary function.
Okay. That puts enormous pressure on using reason for spiritual ends. So for a believer listening, the practical takeaway is akal is the absolute pillar, the diamond of their being.
That's it?
And their worship, their ibadati, it's only valued based on the quality, the measure of the akal that's guiding it.
Precisely. And ultimately, people's ranks in the afterlife, they're determined by their akal, because it's the akal that enables and shapes the quality of their deeds, their amal.
It's not just what you do, but the intelligence behind why you do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which leads us nicely into the next crucial part. Because akal is such a loaded term, the classical thinkers knew they needed to break it down. They clarify that the word akal actually covers 4 distinct meanings, or facets, axum. Understanding these 4 helps clear up a lot of confusion about what intelligence really entails.
Okay, a framework. This sounds important. You mentioned some are innate and some are acquired.
That's right. The first 2 are considered innate, tabi, something you're essentially born with. The last 2 are acquired, kesbi, things you develop through effort and experience.
Okay, let's break them down. What's the first part? Kazım evvel. This is the innate instinct, the garis. Think of it as the raw potential, the basic mental hardware. It's that fundamental faculty that separates humans from beasts, the him. A natural capacity, a meleke, for eventually grasping theoretical ideas, ulum nazariye, and learning complex skills. They describe it as a kind of light cast into the heart, enabling perception. This is the root.
Okay, so if type 1 is the basic hardware, the potential, what's the second part? Kuzumasani. This is necessary knowledge, ulum nazariye. This isn't potential anymore, it's actual knowledge that rises spontaneously in any child who reaches the age of discernment.
Like what kind of knowledge?
Basic self-evident truths. Knowing that 2 is more than 1. Knowing that the whole is greater than its part. Understanding that something impossible, like one single body being in 2 separate places at the exact same time, is, well, impossible. It's basic logic. And the really crucial thing here is this type of akal, this necessary knowledge, is universal. It does not vary between people. Everyone with a functioning mind has this baseline. Think of it as the operating system. It's the branch closest to the root, and it's fixed.
Got it. So type 1 is the potential to think. Type 2 is the built-in universal logic everyone shares. Now we move to the ones we have to work on, the acquired types. What's type 3? Right, the third part, Kazım Salis, is acquired knowledge from experience, ilmi agrib. This is all about learning from life. It's the wisdom, the practical shrewdness you gain from going through things, mikriya of all, seeing how things turn out, reflecting on successes and failures. This is where you process the raw data of life and turn it into usable insight. This is what gets you called wise or savvy in the everyday sense.
Exactly. And you can see how this type would vary hugely between people based on their lives and how much they reflect. This feeds directly into the fourth part, Kazumarabi, which they call the highest goal, the Gayi Kusfa. This is the ultimate destination, the final most valuable fruit of akal.
Okay, what defines this highest level?
It's the cultivated strength of your intellect. Specifically, its ability to control your immediate short-term desires, shivetikam, to choose based on understanding the long-term consequences of your actions, avakibid umurun merfitin. If type 3 is about gathering the data from experience, type 4 is the active self-mastery that applies that wisdom. It's the ability to actually act on what you know is best in the long run, even when it's hard right now.
That really does sound like the goal of cognitive behavioral therapy almost. Understanding your impulses and directing them based on reason and future outcomes.
It's a very practical, very potent understanding of what peak intelligence looks like. It's not just knowing things, it's controlling yourself based on that knowledge.
Okay, let's revisit this idea of variation, tafabut. We know type 2, the necessary knowledge, is fixed. Everyone has it. But the sources insist the other 3 types vary massively.
Oh, absolutely. They say God created akal in different degrees using the image like the number of grains of sand. So the potential Type 1, the experience gathered, Type 3, and the ultimate self-mastery, Type 4, these differ immensely from person to person.
And does the innate part, type 1, just stay static after birth?
No, it grows. The sources talk about the innate akal, Type 1, developing over time. It's like a light that gets gradually brighter, starting in childhood, Hafi and Tedric growing secretly, almost imperceptibly, until it reaches its fullness and perfection around the age of 40.
40? Why 40?
They liken it to the sun reaching its zenith in the sky. It's the age associated with full maturity, wisdom, and often prophethood in traditions. It's when the potential is considered fully realized.
But does it just automatically reach perfection at 40?
No. That's the key. Reaching that potential peak requires actively cultivating it. You have to feed the innate akal. And how do you feed it? Primarily through Type 3, acquiring knowledge through experience and reflection. That lived wisdom is the necessary fertilizer, if you like, to help your akal reach its Type 4 peak, that ultimate self-control and foresight. You don't get Type 4 mastery without putting in the work for Type 3 experience.
That makes perfect sense. The potential needs fuel. And this brings us back to rank and reward. There's that dialogue with Aisha, the Prophet's wife. She apparently asked what makes people superior to others, tafadul, in this life and the next. And the answer was unequivocally, by akal.
Right. And she pushed back, didn't she? But aren't people judged by their deeds?
Exactly. And the clarification gets right to the heart of everything we've discussed. The reply was essentially, yes, but their deeds, Amal, are only possible and are only measured according to the amount and quality of the akal God gave them.
There it is. The akal is the engine. It's what makes meaningful deeds possible and determines their value.
So the person who understands more deeply the consequences of sin, the alim, the knowledgeable one who has cultivated their types 3 and 4 akal, is simply more capable of avoiding wrongdoing than the kahil, the ignorant one.
Precisely. The real function of akal, in this view, isn't just abstract reasoning. It's to equip you for piety, for obedience. The person considered truly excellent, the one with the highest rank, is the one with the most developed akal, because that naturally leads to the most obedience to God.
It's a complete reframing. We've mapped out akal not as just, how smart you are biologically, but as this dynamic inner light. It's the first creation, it grows, it needs cultivation, and it's ultimately the standard for judgment and success, both here and hereafter.
Which leaves us with a final thought, really, for everyone listening. If that highest form of akal type, the power to choose long-term good over immediate desire, reaches its full potential around age 40, and if getting there depends entirely on actively building up Type 3 wisdom through experience, well, the question becomes, how actively are you engaging right now in gathering and reflecting on those experiences? Because that cultivation, that's the fertilizer. That's what determines if your innate akal reaches its peak. And ultimately, according to these sources, that determines your rank.